Hello everyone. This is Chapter 20, Lesson 3, Problems with Modifiers. This lesson is about the problems that we might face while using modifiers. Modifiers such as adjectives or adverbs might be used incorrectly, and we might have problems regarding using them. We all know that adjectives are used to modify nouns or pronouns. Adverbs are used to modify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. Also, we sometimes have problems with the use of good or well, the use of bad or badly, and also sometimes we have problems regarding double negatives, and we should avoid to use double negatives. The first point in this lesson is the adjective or adverb. The adjective or adverb, should we use an adjective or an adverb? Adjectives and adverbs are modifiers, but they're so different in many ways. We learned in grammar sections prior to this that adjectives describe nouns or pronouns, and we learned that adjectives usually come after the nouns, come before the nouns or pronouns they modify. They can come after the nouns or pronouns they modify if the linking verb is used. Adjectives are usually easy for us to identify and recognize because they answer the following questions, and we have here four examples of adjectives and the questions they answer. The first example is that recipe is easy, and it's so clear that the adjective is used before the noun it modifies, and it tells us which recipe. So that is an adjective and it modifies the noun recipe. In the next example, this lemonade tastes sweet, and we can notice that sweet is used after the noun it modifies. It modifies lemonade and it comes after it because a linking verb is used. As long as there is a linking verb, we should use the adjective after the noun or pronoun it modifies. The next example here tells us how many. Sometimes we have adjectives that tell us how many, like this. I have 3 cookies. How many cookies? 3. So 3 is the adjective and it modifies the noun cookies. The next example here, I need more butter for this frosting. More is an adjective and it modifies the noun butter and it tells us how much. So adjectives sometimes answer the question how much, and more is used here before the before the noun it modifies. If we use linking verbs, the order of the adjective and noun will be different. The adjectives will be used, as we mentioned before, the adjective will be used after the nouns they modify because the linking verb is used. But sometimes linking verbs or some linking verbs can be used either as linking verbs or action verbs. These verbs are such as feel, smell, and taste. How can we identify whether this verb is an action verb or linking verb? It's so simple. We can simply substitute the verb we have with verb to be. If it makes sense, this means that the verb used is a linking verb. Like this example. The milk smelled sour. Smelled here is a linking verb, and if we replace it with a verb to be, it will be the milk is sour. It makes sense. So, smelled here is used as a linking verb, and we should use an adjective after it. Here, the milk smelled sour. And sour is an adjective, and it modifies the noun milk. In the next example here, we have smelled but as an action verb, because we cannot replace it with the verb to be. It will not make sense. If we replace smelled here with the verb to be, I smelled the milk. I can never say I am the milk. It does not make sense. So it's incorrect to use smelled here as a linking verb. Smelled here is an action verb, and it's an easy way to identify whether the linking verb we have is an adjective or the linking verb that we have is really working as a linking verb or an action verb. Next, we will go to the adverbs section. Adverbs describe verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. We already discussed that. Because adverbs can be placed almost anywhere in the sentence, we ask certain questions. Those questions are on the next page in order to determine the modifier to be an adverb or not. There are certain questions to be answered. Let's move to the next page. Here we have examples of adverbs. The first example here, place the car closed here. Here is an adverb, and it modifies the verb place, and it tells us where the carved closed are placed. So here is an adverb, and it modifies the verb place, and it tells us where. The next sentence, yesterday I made butterscotch pudding. When did I make it? It's yesterday. So yesterday is an adverb that modifies the verb made. The next example, briskly whisk the eggs. Briskly is an adverb, and whisk is a verb, and it tells us how. How are the eggs whisked, or how should the eggs be whisked? Briskly is the answer. So briskly is an adverb that modifies the verb whisk. The next example is about an adverb that tells us to what extent. Please don't stir the muffin batter too long. Long is an adjective, and the adverb to is used to modify this adjective, and it tells us to what extent. There are similar adverbs that also answer the same question, to what extent, like so and very and extremely. And also in this example, the last example here, I have another of those wonderfully tasty crab puffs. Wonderfully tasty. Tasty is an adjective, and wonderfully is an adverb that tells us to what extent, and it modifies the adjective tasty here. Sometimes we have certain words that can be used as either adverbs or adjectives, and they end in ly. They have the same form as adjectives and adverbs. They end in ly, like the word daily here. In this example, daily is used as an adverb, and it tells us when. He cooks breakfast daily. It gives us information about the verb cooks. It tells us when. It's used as an adverb. The next example, his daily ritual includes a healthful breakfast. His daily ritual. Ritual is a noun, and daily is used to modify this noun. So daily here is not an adverb, it is an adjective, and it tells us what kind of ritual it is. So let's be careful about the use of such adverbs that end in ly and have the same form of adverbs that end in ly, and they have the same form of adjectives that also end in ly. Sometimes also we have some adverbs that do not end in ly, and they are also used as adjectives with the same form, like the adverbs first, hard, high, late, and long. Those words are used as adverbs, and also they can be used as adjectives. And how can we determine whether this word is used as adjective or adverb? We can tell that, or we can answer this by the words they modify, by recognizing which words they modify, which questions do they answer. Like this example, eat first and then wash the pans. Eat first and then wash the pans. First here is used as an adverb, and it tells us when we should eat. So first here is used as an adverb, it modifies the verb eat. First in the next example is used as an adjective. His first omelette was a success. His first omelette was a success. First here is an adjective, and it modifies the noun omelette. It tells us which omelette was successful. So it's so clear that it's an adjective, and it modifies this noun. The next point we have here is the use of good or well. we know that good is an adjective and well is an adverb. Good is always used as an adjective, but well sometimes used as an adverb. But if it's used to mean in good health or satisfactory, it will be an adjective, like this. Use good as an adjective, use well as an adverb, unless it means in good health or satisfactory. Like these examples, we have 3 examples of the use of good or well. Sally is a good cook. So we hear that good is an adjective and it modifies the noun cook. Sally cooks well. Well here is an adverb and it modifies the verb cooks, and it answers or tells us how Sally cooks. It tells us how Sally cooks. So well is an adverb and it modifies the verb cooks. The third example is the use of well as an adjective, because here it means in good health. Sally doesn't feel well today. Sally doesn't feel well. Here it means in good health, so well is used here as an adjective. The next section here is about the use of bad or badly. Bad is an adjective and badly is an adverb. Badly is an adjective and often follows a linking verb. It comes after a linking verb. Badly is used as an adverb. Look here at this example. This egg smells bad. This egg smells bad. Smells is a linking verb, and we should use an adjective after a linking verb. Here, badly is an adverb in this example. Oh, I've badly jammed the garbage disposal. Badly here is an adverb. It is used to tell us about the verb jammed or have jammed. So it is used as an adverb in this sentence, and it tells us how. Here, be careful about the use of bad as an adjective and badly as adverb, because in written English, we should use bad after linking verbs. In casual conversation, it is acceptable to use bad or badly after the verb feel. But in formal written language, we cannot use badly after the verb feel, as it is explained here in these 2 examples. In writing, we can say, I feel bad about taking the lost cookie. But I cannot say, I feel badly about taking the lost cookie. In written English, I cannot use it, but we can use this in conversation. The next point is the use of double negatives. And the use of double negatives is incorrect. If we have a sentence that contains double negative, this means that this sentence is incorrect and it needs to be fixed. Some words are considered negatives. In most sentences, 2 negatives, called double negative, should not be used together, and we should avoid using them. And we have here a group of common negatives that are used commonly, such as but when meaning only, barely, hardly, neither, never, no, none, no one, not, and its contraction form and apostrophe T, nothing, only, and scarcely. Let's look at these examples of double negatives. Sue doesn't have no choice in this meal. Sue does not have, not here is a negative form, and now is another negative form, and this is incorrect to include them in one sentence. So we should remove one of them. In order to fix the sentence or make it correct, we should use only one form of negation. Like, for example, Sue doesn't have any choice in this meal. Or we can say, Sue has no choice in this meal. Also in this example here, we have, there is hardly any reason to eat now. There isn't hardly any reason to eat now. Isn't here is a negative, not here is the negative form, hardly is another negative form, and it's incorrect to include them in one sentence. The correct way to fix this problem is to include only one form of the negative form, like this. There isn't any reason to eat now, or there is hardly any reason to eat now. Next, we have practice your skills. We have some practice. The first part of the practice is identifying mistakes in the use of modifiers. Using the following abbreviations, write the type of each mistake here. If a sentence is correct, write C. If the sentence has a problem with adjective or adverb, we should write A. If the problem is regarding the use of good or well, we should write GW. If the problem is in the use of bad or badly, we use BB or write BB. If the problem is in double negative or is a double negative, we use or we write GN. Let's look at the sentences here. Sentence number 1. Everyone did good on the home economics final exam. Everyone did good. Good is an adjective, but it should modify the verb did, and did is an action verb, so good is incorrect. It should be well. Everyone did well on the home economics final exam. And answers or tells us how. So the problem here is in the use of good or well. So the answer to number 1, we write the answer here, is GW. Look at number 2. Jeff looked hungry at the enchiladas the class prepared. Jeff looked hungry at the enchiladas. Looked here is not a linking verb. Looked here is an action verb. We cannot replace it with a verb to be. So hungry here as an adjective is incorrect. It should be Jeff looked hungrily at the enchiladas the class prepared. If we replace looked with a verb to be, the sentence will not make any sense. So the number 2 is incorrect, and the problem is in the use of adjective and adjective or adverb. Number 3, sentence number 3, Lisa did quite well in baking crab puffs. Lisa did quite well. Well is an adverb and it modifies the verb did, and it tells us how. So number 3 or sentence 3 is correct. Sentence 4. No one knew nothing about making chocolate mousse. No one is negative form and nothing is another negative form, so it's incorrect to use double negative here. It's incorrect. So the correction is to use only one of them. No one knew anything about making chocolate mousse. This is the correct answer. So number 4, the problem is in the use of double negatives. Sentence 5. Those who arrived to class early got the best utensils. Early is used here as an adverb. It answers the question 1, and it modifies the verb arrived. It's used here correctly. Those who arrived to class early got the best utensils. So sentence 5 is correct. Look at sentence number 6. The early bird gets the worm, shouted Shelley, grabbing the best of the 3 mixers. The word early here is used as an adjective. It modifies the noun bird. It tells us what kind of bird or which bird. So early here is used as an adjective. It modifies the noun bird. So number 6, sentence number 6 is correct also. Number 7. Don't feel bad if your first pie crust is a little tough. Don't feel bad if your first pie crust is a little tough. Bad here is an adjective and it's after the feel. It is correct. It is used correctly here. Number 8. That marmalade tastes bitterly. Tastes here is a linking verb and bitterly is an adverb form. So it's incorrect to use adverb after linking verb. So the correction is to use the adjective bitter. That marmalade tastes bitter. So the problem with sentence number 8 is in the use of adjective or adverb. So the answer is A. Sentence number 9. There ain't no reason why you can't help wash dishes. Ain't here is an informal way to use the verb to be with negative, like isn't, and not, isn't, and aren't, but it's just used in spoken English. It's informal, or it's an informal way of using negative. but it is still negative. And no is also negative. So we have here double negative. It's incorrect. There ain't no reason why you can't help wash dishes. In order to fix it, we can say there is no reason why you can't help wash dishes. So the problem is double negative. Sentence number 10. That fish casserole smells rather strongly. That fish casserole smells. Smells is a linking verb, and strongly is an adverb. And after linking verb, we should use adjective, not an adverb. So it should be strong, not strongly. So the problem here is in the adverb or adjective. Sentence number 11. I don't get hardly any sugar left. I don't have hardly any sugar left. Don't, do not is negative, and hardly is another negative, and it's incorrect to use both forms of negatives. So the correction is to use only one of them. I don't have any sugar left, or I have hardly any sugar left. So sentence 11 is the mistake is in the use of double negatives. Sentence 12. Sentence 12. Gareth felt bad about burning the cinema walls. Felt bad. Felt is a linking verb, and we use bad after linking verbs. And after felt, in general, we use adjective. We use bad, not badly. So number 12 is correct. 13. Because of Don's confusing directions, we could not hardly make a successful souffle. Because of Don's confusing directions, we could not hardly, two negative forms, not and hardly. It's incorrect. We should use only one of them. We can say we could hardly make a successful souffle. So the problem is in the double negative. Sentence 14. Number 14. Don't you think this frosted cake looks well? Looks well. Looks here is a linking verb, and well is an adverb, and it's incorrect to use well after linking verbs. We should use the adjective good. Looks good. So the problem here is in the use of good or well. The next part of this exercise is to correct the mistakes in this exercise, in the previous one. Here, the sentences we labeled here with the mistakes. We should fix them or write them correctly. So we'll write them, or we will answer them, write the correction of the incorrect ones. The first sentence had the problem of good or well, so the correction for the sentence is the use of well instead of good. So we write, everyone did well. The answer is did well. Everyone did well on the home economics final exam. Sentence number 2, the problem was in the use of adverb or adjective. The adjective hungry is used here incorrectly, so it should be corrected here. Jeff looked hungrily at the enchiladas the class prepared. So we should write here hungrily. Hungry. Sentence 3 is correct. Sentence 4 had a problem of double negatives, and in order to fix it, we need to use only one form of negative. No one knew anything about making chocolate mousse. No one knew anything. So it should be like this. No one knew anything. The next one, number 5, 6, and 7 are correct. Those are correct. A, sentence A, that marmalade tastes bitterly. Bitterly is incorrect. It should be the adjective bitter. Sentence 9, the problem is in the use of double negatives. 9, there is no reason why you can't help wash dishes. We can say there is no reason. There is no reason. The next one, number 10, the problem is in the use of adjective or adverb. That fish casserole smells rather strongly. Strongly is incorrect. It should be strong. So, right, strong. The next one, number 11, the problem is in the use of double negatives. I don't have hardly any sugar left. I don't have any sugar left, or I have hardly any sugar left. I have hardly any sugar left. The next one is correct. Number 13, the problem is in the use of double negatives. Because of John's confusing directions, we could not hardly make a successful souffle. Could not hardly make. So the correction is to use only one form of them. Could hardly make. Could hardly. Sentence 14. Don't you think this frosted cake looks well? The problem here is in the use of good or well. Well is used incorrectly. The correction is good. Let's move to the last page of our lesson. Here we have a note about the use of comparisons. This note tells us how to use new comparisons and to avoid cliché, like, for example, the use of black as night, flat as pancake, thin as a rail. When they are no longer used, or they no longer create a special image in a reader's mind, we need to be more creative and to add fresh, surprising, and vivid comparisons that create vivid imagery. The last practice we have here is a checkpoint, and it's mixed practice. Write the following paragraphs correcting each error in the use of comparisons. It's about the general use of modifiers in general, adjectives and adverbs, and comparisons also. It's mixed practice. We will answer them sentence by sentence. Sentence number 1. Venus has been called Earth's twin. It's so obvious that this sentence is correct. Sentence number 1 is correct. Sentence 2. Second in distance from the Sun, Venus comes more nearer to Earth than any planet. Here the problem is in the use of double comparative, more and nearer. You know that near is an adjective, it's a one-syllable adjective, and in order to make it or to use it in the comparative form, we need to add er to the adjective. It will be nearer. But more is used with multisyllabic adjectives or adjectives with more than one syllable. So more here is used incorrectly. So in order to correct it, we need to write only the word nearer and cancel the word more. So the correction is comes near. Number 3. Venus's diameter, density, mass, and gravity are all close to Earth. Venus's diameter, density, mass, and gravity are all close to Earth. The problem here is in the use of a logical comparison here. The comparison is not between Venus and Earth, it's about those objects that are possessed by Venus here, diameter, density, mass, and gravity. They are not compared to Earth. They are compared to the Earth's same categories or the same objects. So the correction is to use the word Earth's, close to Earth's. To Earth. Number 4. Venus's year is about 3/5 as long as Earth's. Venus's year is about 3/5 as long as Earth's. Just so obvious that the sentence is correct, it doesn't have anything wrong. Sentence 5. Venus's rotation, however, is from east to west, while Earth and most planets rotate from west to east. The problem with sentence 5 is that the comparison here, Venus's rotation, however, is from east to west, while Earth and most planets rotate from west to east. The comparison is between a member of the group. This means that the comparison is not between Venus and Earth, it's between Venus and other members of the same group. So, in order to avoid this misunderstanding or this confusion, we need to add the word other here. Earth and most other planets. Earth and other planets in the same group as Venus. So, the correction is to add the word most other planets. Sentence number 6. Venus is masked by dense clouds. The sentence is correct. Number 7. Number 6 is correct. I should write C here. 7. Astronomers knew hardly nothing about Venus's atmosphere and surface until radar and a piloted spacecraft penetrated the clouds. Astronomers knew hardly nothing. Two negatives here. Hardly is a negative and nothing is another form of negative. And in order to fix it, we should use only one negative form. Knew hardly anything. Knew hardly anything. Sentence 8. Despite Venus's clouds, its surface gets much more hotter than Earth. The mistake here is in the use of double comparison. Much more hotter. More and hotter. We know that hotter is a monosyllabic adjective. It's just one syllable. It's formed by, the comparison is formed by adding er to the adjective. More is useless here. So we should use only one form of comparison. Much hotter than Earth. Much hotter. This is the correction. Sentence 9. The temperature on Venus can reach 460 Celsius. The sentence is correct. Sentence 10. Because Venus is more closer to the Sun than Earth is, you can see it only when you face it in the general direction of the Sun. The problem here is in the use of double comparison here. More, closer, it's the same problem. More is used incorrectly. Closer is enough as a form of comparison. So the correction is to use is closer, not more closer. Sentence 11. During most of the daytime, the sun shines too vivid to allow you to see Venus. During most of the daytime, the sun shines too vivid to allow you to see Venus. The problem here is in the use of adjective and adverb here. Look here, too vivid. The sun shines too vivid. Vivid is an adjective, and we need here an adverb because the modifier here should modify the verb shines. It should tell us how. So the correction is the use of vividly, not vivid. So the correction is vividly. Sentence 12. When Venus is east of the sun, however, the sun sets before it. The sentence is correct. 12 is correct. 13. When Venus can be seen clear in the twilight of the western sky. When Venus can be seen clear. Here the problem is in the verb clear. Seen is an action verb and it needs an adverb to modify it, and clear here is an adjective. It needs an adverb. So how can it be seen clearly? So the problem is in the word clear and it should be clearly. The correction is clearly. Okay, here we finished the lesson. Thanks for your time and best of luck. Thank you.